Hello, and welcome to Fingerprinting 101 by Brianna Buccini and Payerchin. In this project, we researched the history behind the use of fingerprints in a forensics environment, the main types of fingerprints, and if they are genetically inherited or not. To add to our project, we also surveyed some friends and community members on what fingerprint types they have to see if we could find any trends.
History of fingerprinting in forensics. The use of fingerprints goes back centuries, with ancient Babylonians using fingerprints and clay as a means for business transactions, and ancient Chinese using fingerprints taken by ink to identify children. In 1858, an Englishman named Sir William Herschel was working as the chief magistrate of the Hooghly district in Jungipur, India. In order to reduce the fraud, he had the residents record their fingerprints when signing business documents. Then, in 1892, Sir Francis Galton published a book called Fingerprints, in which he outlined the fingerprint classification system. In 1892, Juan Vucetich was called in to assist with the investigation of two boys murdered in Necochea and used fingerprinting analysis to convict the mother of the murders. This was the first use of fingerprint identification for use in criminal investigation. December 21, 1911, the Illinois State Supreme Court upheld the admissibility of fingerprint evidence, concluding that the fingerprints are a reliable form of identification. In 1980, the first computer database of fingerprints was developed, which became known as the Automated Fingerprint Identification System. In the present day, there are nearly 700 million individual fingerprints entered in FIS.
There are three main types of fingerprints. Loops, which are lasso-shaped with one end curved at the top of the finger pad and the other end straight. Whorls, which are circular patterns that start in the middle and get bigger as you reach the outer edge of the finger. And arches, which are rainbow-like patterns that are stacked on top of each other. Loops are the most common type, with whorls being the next most common type, and arches are the least common type. Now, according to the Henry classification system, there are actually 8 different classifications for fingerprints, which include arch, tented arch, right loop, left loop, whorl, central pocket whorl, double loop whorl, and accidental whorl. But for simplification purposes, we usually just see them listed in these 3 types that you see shown.
Our findings. We asked participants to tell us the type of fingerprint, loop, whorl, or arch, of their right and left index fingers, and many participants shared the type of fingerprints for all 10 fingers. Of 16 participants, 2 participants had different right and left index fingerprint types. Of the right index finger, 8 of 15 people had loops, 6 had whorls, and 2 had arches. Of the left index finger, 10 had loops, 5 had whorls, and 1 had an arch. Our findings show that arches are the least common fingerprint type, which is supported by data. Around 5% of people have arches, 25 to 35% of people have whorls, and 60 to 70% of people have loops. Of the 7 participants that included the type for all 10 of their fingerprints, 2 had all 10 fingerprints being the same type. 4 participants had 2 different types of fingerprints on 10 of their fingers, and 1 participant's fingerprints contained all 3 types of fingerprints.
Are fingerprints genetically inherited? It may come as a surprise given the advanced technology and long history revolving fingerprints, but little is actually known about what influences their patterns. The most current research suggests that there are both genetic and environmental factors at play here. Genetic factors are believed to influence the basics of the fingerprint, like the basic size, shape, and spacing of the dermatoglyphs, or the patterns of the skin ridges, while environmental factors of the womb during development are believed to influence the finer details. This is why everyone's patterns are unique. Even identical twins have different fingerprints, and they have the same exact DNA. Thank you for watching our presentation. We hope you learned something new about fingerprints. Enjoy the rest of the STEM fair.